So what if Asia industrialized first? About to make this guy crash out so bad right now. Now in our universe, the first empire to go through the Industrial Revolution was Great Britain. Then later the nations that followed were Germany, the US, also France a little bit. But I just want to say before we get into this is not that far-fetched. Well, first of all, Japan eventually industrialized, but remember, Turkey had the opportunity to industrialize before anybody else. A random Turkish dude made the steam engine 200 years before everybody else, but he just used it for food. Honestly, worth it. This lore right here might just be if that guy decided to, well, do more than just spin donor. That actually might be the case because the Ottoman Empire is still super huge in this world. By the way, these are the dates we're looking at. The Ottomans should not be that big. And heading over to one of their neighbors, we have a nice big old Persia. A much less divided South Asia. That is because, well, before the British came, remember this subcontinent was extremely splintered. We also have this de facto Afghanistan. Yeah, I mean, one thing's for sure, India would be unrecognizable in a lot of different imaginary universes. You wouldn't have like the split with India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. Yeah, there's a lot of different civilizations that grew up again in this subcontinent. I gotta assume the Chinese in this world though have got to be the most powerful. But then we have a united Korea, also a very big Japan. So this reddish orange line, I think it's more orange. This is showing us ocean routes, ocean trade routes. Meanwhile, the green is showing the land trade routes. The map is not highlighting Europe, but you can see Europe is still extremely divided. I guess Spain and Portugal managed to just barely industrialize in this world. You'll notice a major lack of European powers in Asia when they obviously historically were very much here, especially by 1860, that's for sure. And that is probably because these countries are just way too powerful now. No one's gonna be able to take them over. Also, in this universe, the industrialization started in Hindustan. So right here in the middle, and then it expanded outward. China eventually overtook Hindustan by the mid-1850s. So you're talking major economic growth from all of these regions. China is just so large though, which is, yeah, why they clearly would be number one eventually, even if they didn't industrialize first. Now, in this universe, do the Asian empires decide, hey, we should also imperialize Africa because, well, the Europeans did that in like the 1890s. I'm assuming they would eventually want to get this. It'd be fascinating. Like, I'd want to know also what's going on in America. America should be pretty much the same, kind of, with the Spanish and the French and the British colonies. That wouldn't change much. They might just look really weak. Those just might be like the poor continents over there. Babe, wake up. Another Eastern industrialized map has dropped. Very cool and detailed. My one nitpick, I feel like the Chinese would have expanded more into Siberia if they were to industrialize in 1860. I think I agree. Then again, there's really not much up there. I can see why they wouldn't want to do that. Very cool scenario nonetheless. Before we continue, I just recently crossed the over 5,000 videos uploaded to YouTube milestone. I've been doing this for a long time. If you appreciate that, if you appreciate all the content that I've been able to bring you over the last like 12 or 13 years, please consider hitting subscribe. Again, it's a big thing for me. It really just shows me how many people love these same subjects that I do. I get to feel like slightly less of a weirdo because these topics are so niche. So yeah, if you haven't already, please consider hitting that sub button. This world really had my head spinning. I don't know why I've never thought of this concept before. What if the Mediterranean opened from the other side? Basically, if the Strait of Gibraltar wasn't a strait, if it was actually connected Spain and Morocco here, and now the opening for the Mediterranean actually goes through what we call now the Suez Canal. This is probably just called the Strait of, I don't know, the Suez? I don't know. This is also a very rare drawn map, but the concept to me was just so interesting. I felt like I had to cover it. It's crazy because the way tectonic plates work, I mean, man, this is not that insane of a situation or scenario. Like in the multi-universe out there, I don't think we have to expand. We don't have to go that far away from our own universe to find this universe. Does that make any sense? So Gibraltar is now connected, which this is really just going to obviously affect like early human civilization. It's hard to say what would change or if really things would change much at all. I would assume the Romans would still be pretty powerful, but there would probably be a lot more routes out towards India. I mean, that's kind of the theme here. Spread of Buddhism by the 3rd century. Whoa. All right, I wasn't expecting that. We're specifically talking about the rise of the Hellenic Egyptians in 97 CE, basically because of their vast maritime network provided by Buddhism with a path westward towards Europe. So we basically have like super powerful Greek Egyptians. Okay, sounds good to me. Love that even the cities here are labeled. So there is no Rome here, but there is a Carthaginian empire over this way. The only issue with this scenario, I feel like, I mean, this is still a giant desert. This wouldn't affect like the Sahara Desert or the Arabian Peninsula peninsula, one small strip of water, and the early humans being able to sail through this, it's still, I don't know. It wouldn't necessarily make this land any more valuable, but getting over to India definitely would be a lot easier and probably for a lot earlier humans. Like maybe for Alexander the Great, he could have made a giant naval empire and got over here to India. I mean, he did get to India, but I mean with a fleet or something. Pretty great work for being handmade and on conventional paper. That's what I'm saying. It's really clear too. Love this. Seems like a very natural change to think about. It's a tiny amount of land that's different, but I think that yes, it's a very interesting tiny amount of land change, but it would change so much in history, I think. Or maybe it wouldn't. I really don't know. I've never really thought about this situation before. Give my man 1,000 upvotes, please. Talk about cursed. This is basically a USSR that forms out of France, Germany, basically a lot of European nations. But that's actually not the focus of this map here. We're talking about the ethno-linguistic groups of the Fraternal Socialist Republic of Europe in 1953. I guess technically the USSR could still exist in this universe, in fact, but I would assume what we're doing here is we're replacing the USSR and putting it in Western Europe. Now remember, the USSR, just like modern day Russia, in fact, but even more so for the USSR, was a very diverse place. I think Americans tend to accidentally think that the Soviet Union was just a bunch of really big, giant white dudes. I think we can all blame Rocky IV for that one. Bro, I always see this guy and I'm like, man, this could have been me if I was just like 3 times taller. God nerfed me so hard. But in reality, the USSR consisted of Slavic people, Turkic people, Caucasian people, not what you're thinking. People from the Caucasus, basically. You also have a lot of Indo-Europeans over this way. Also, don't forget about the ethnically Chinese here, which I don't think this map really even labels. There was at least hundreds of thousands of those too in the population. So anyways, a giant Soviet Union that was in Western Europe. This is, you know, somewhat similar. I will say there's probably less ethnic diversity in this universe than there was in reality in the real USSR. I mean, because it's just not as big, really. That's what it comes down to. But in the green, you got the French. In the red, you got the Germans. What is this, blue? We got little dots of Slavic as well, of course, which is going to be near the Czechoslovakian and Polish border. You got the Dutch out this way. Of course, you can't forget about Brittany, France, which is going to be its own little thing. This literally does look like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, though, but on steroids. Are we really expected to believe that this would exist? Maybe in 1953 it would exist. I think if they tried this like any earlier, it'd be a little difficult. This is just the European Union, isn't it? A communist European Union? And we even got the Basque region down here. Having Berlin renamed as Luxembourg, presumably this, while the city of Luxembourg is in former Luxembourg still exists, would be extremely confusing. Yeah, I love this premise. You cooked so hard. Oh, that's right. Esperanto is that it's like an auxiliary language. Basically, any of the Romance languages can understand this kind of. Substantial majority of its vocabulary, approximately 80%, is derived from the Romance language. So if you speak Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, French, you'd be able to understand this. This is absolutely crazy, but what if America and China formed a union? What if they were all under the same nation? We've got this Chinese man in the left-hand corner versus George Washington in the right. How the hell did this happen? Here's the thing, like, I know it seems unfathomable here in 2025. It's still pretty unfathomable, but remember that the diplomatic situation between America and China was very different 200 years ago. I mean, there's a ton of Chinese people that eventually, you know, moved to California, specifically San Francisco. San Francisco has one of the biggest Chinatowns in the world. In fact, this is also a very big China. This is like Qing dynasty borders, so they still have obviously Taiwan, and then they also have Mongolia too. If you combine the United States with China, it would equal 14% of the global landmass. That's crazy. Oh, that's so cool. Like this Chinese dragon and this bald eagle. Population would be 1.7 billion. That's mostly Chinese. Let's be real. China is contributing the vast majority. We only have like 340 million. They have like 1.4 billion. The world would be absolutely cooked, honestly. Like, what's even the point of continuing? Even Russia, the biggest country by far currently on Earth, they wouldn't. I mean, remember, a lot of Russia is just tundra. A lot of this stuff is not very valuable, but the United States and China, you combine them, oh my goodness. So this clearly took place in like the 19th century. I'm just not sure how exactly. Maybe they were pissed off at all the European powers taking chunks at them. This was like during the Opium Wars, so they just united with the United States. I don't know, maybe. I don't think a lot of Americans would actually like this though, because if we're still a democracy, we would get absolutely obliterated by the Chinese vote. I mean, there's so many more Chinese people than Americans. Yeah, look, I mean, our union between these two countries, we would still be 70% Han ethnicity. Only 11% would be white, then Latino, then this is the small portion of American ethnicities versus all the Chinese 70%. We would need to start integrating. We would need to probably start intermingling a little bit. I think these two places still function very differently though. Senators from the Chinese region versus the senators from the American region. Oh, so it's weighted heavily to to still give America a lot of vote in the Congress. But the House of Representatives, oh, that's only the Senate. The House of Representatives it heavily favors the Chinese region. Yeah, you would have to somehow, first of all, this is absolutely impossible. This doesn't make any democratic sense. Yeah, this is funny enough, this is a similar reason why Russia doesn't want to get too close to China either, because they would just get dominated. They just don't have the numbers. Even though Russia and China on the surface are friendly, holy blessed. Can you imagine what speed's gonna do in this country? Not gonna lie, the Sino-American superpower kinda goes hard. It started with the Sino-American Treaty of Friendship signed in 1946, so this is after World War II. Oh, it's the People's Republic of China, so obviously communism doesn't rise up. I mean, I figured that as much. The anti-fallout timeline. Yeah, here's a throwback to the Republic of China and the USA and their friendliness during the Chinese Civil War. Reddit's reactions to unions so far. India, America, they're not fans. Russia, America, kind of angry. China, America, very happy. Japan, America, also. Oh, they love that the most. Yeah, makes sense. What if Christopher Columbus actually did find India? It was just in India. This doesn't even make any sense, but it was just in India that is Florida? Oh my god. And then we have the colonization that would take place in this kind of disgusting world. So you basically have all of South Asia that has replaced Florida and I guess the South. Also, Sri Lanka is Puerto Rico, I guess. So here is Florida, here is Goa. Denmark and Sweden have made it to this world's India, America. Is India still considered a subcontinent? Probably. Also, there should be a giant mountain range that this subcontinent crashed into. But either way, the British have still created the 13 colonies out here in the East Coast. Wait, what is this? Oh, this is a piece of like Myanmar, huh? It's like almost a bit of Pakistan here. So Spain still gets, well, like traditional Latin America. We still have the Hudson Bay. This is before the Louisiana Purchase, so this is still called New France. Map of India circa 1756. It's just kind of confusing because how could Christopher Columbus find India if it wasn't on the other side of the globe? You know what I'm saying? Like he went to he thought he was gonna go this way. Is that the Romans knew about India? In this universe, the Romans would definitely not know about India. They didn't know about America and the continents over here and stuff. I definitely would buff out America's. Actually, this might be too much landmass. I feel like this would cause too much chaos. First of all, why is Denmark and Sweden even here? First of all, Portugal being here, okay, I get that. Y'all though, maybe there's an explanation. I can see a little tip of Greenland. Greenland's still here. I've got a lot of questions, but can you imagine the cuisine that would come out of this place too? Man, I'm thinking about so much American curry. I hate how good you made this look. Oh, to be a new French fur trader sailing down this river to this New Orleans. Yes, very nice name. Now I need to see what happened to real life India. There's probably nothing there. Again, the subcontinent crashed into the Asian plate, so it's probably just empty. Lol, the Mexican rivers never reaching the sea and dying in the middle of the continent. Oh yeah, Mexico is actually a lot thicker, way thicker of a boy. They kind of have to come out this way to the Pacific. Now I'm just thinking about a combination of Indian food and Mexican food. Can you even imagine? I cannot. Is this going to eventually be renamed to the Gulf of India? I wouldn't be surprised. Bro, what is this horrific nation? This is if the Dutch and Prussians were successful in driving out the Habsburgs and they made Chile in Europe. That's horizontal. That's really the only way I can describe this thing. Dang, it goes up there so far. They grabbed St. Petersburg. This is basically like a really big Dutch empire combined with the Prussians, essentially. This is absolutely insane, but I could see it happening maybe. Man, what are these names? Well, a lot of these names haven't changed, but you know. Oh, kind of. There's Berlin, a Prussian-Dutch Union. This is crazy. I feel like they would face pretty big threats still from whatever's coming out of Russia or down this part of Europe. When did this all happen? Okay, well, they kicked out the Habsburgs, so I don't know. I wonder how big of a colony would they start. The Dutch punched way above their weight considering their size in Europe. They ended up colonizing quite a bit of the world. The Germans not so much, but that's because they kind of lost 2 world wars. This is just like fascinating borders. Oh, they also grabbed this island in the Baltic Sea. Why did they not get Lithuania? Did Poland protect Lithuania? Where's Poland at? I'm assuming Austria will eventually form this world's Germany or something. I think there's still like a Holy Roman Empire here. This map is mostly based off this all-Dutch movement proposed by the members of the Flemish movement during the 19th century. To achieve this timeline, the Dutch would have had to been more keen on industrialization and urban development. Dang, there's a whole essay behind this. We doing long Germany now. It's about time we had a long Germany. Longer lands. Like the way that sounds. Simplified Dutch is just Rhinish Low German with extra steps. I knew someone was gonna make that comment down here. These borders are sure something. Why and how did the Germans get Gotland? Boat. Well, that explains a lot. Again, like I said at the very beginning, please consider hitting that sub button. It helps out tremendously. These are the patrons for this month. If you'd like to join, check that link down below to patreon.com. If Greenland is the largest island, then Australia is its own continent again, right? Drew Supremacy League. Drew's Argentinian Trust Fund. Rip Grandpa. Connor Pavlik. Carmel S. Douche Baggins. Alexander the Terrible. Frederick King. Tiblin. Bear Hayes. Luxembourg Lover. Miglu the Nolan. Nord Tyrol. And Tamron.